Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double bicep cities and the contract and legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. This is the AWE podcast. Welcome to the show. We are talking about all things arm wrestling. The man sitting across from me today, as always, is the co-founder, the co-wearer of clothes, co-breather of air, the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Cristo, Thunderlips, the ultimate male. It is, in fact, winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award. As you can see in the background there, it is a legitimate award. It is Dave Stockbridge. Welcome to the AWE podcast that you and I started.
Well, it's a very warm introduction, as always, Hollywood Matt Connolly, to all of our podcasts, and it's absolutely wonderful to be here and to be talking all things arm wrestling and AWE, and big event coming up on the 25th of February at the Nord Oval here in Adelaide. But for people that can't be here in Australia for that event, they can jump onto Ryan Blue Bowen's channel and click on the pay-per-view right now, and for less than $10, they can soak in not just the Ryan Blue Bowen versus Chant Shaw matchup, which is, I'm sure, is worth the price of admission, but there is an undercard that has arm wrestling fans salivating in expectation. So COVID has been one of those periods where a lot of athletes have, wondered how they will go afterwards. So they've been training in their garages, they've been heading out to the gyms, they've been arm wrestling at their clubs, but how do they compete against the best of the world? Well, AWE 1 at Apex Sport Fest is going to answer some of those questions in a regional sense in Australia, as we've got some of the biggest names in Australia and New Zealand, as well as Chant Shaw making his way over here to settle that discussion maybe once and for all in some of these cases. Certainly we're going to answer who is Australasia's #1 junior. So we've got Jamie Barrett and Hamza Hodzic, who will be competing for that title, the AWE junior title. That question wasn't answered at the recent Australian Arm Wrestling Federation titles, unfortunately, as they did hold that event in a casino, which excluded juniors from attending. Yeah. Which is a real shame, but great for the AWE to be able to take up that mantle and to give these young athletes a platform, an international platform. And all of these matchups will be contested inside an ISCA-certified cage. So at the Apex Sport Fest, there will be a full MMA DFC card, somewhere between 12 and 15 fights on that night, and those matchups, of which there will be 2 title belts decided, will be held in the same cage as all of the arm wrestling matchups that you'll see on this particular card, which I believe for an international event is a first, and I believe the first time ever arm wrestling was contested inside an ISCA certified cage, or would have been at one of our events at DFC 14 or 15 earlier this year. So it's not, for us, it's not unusual to see arm wrestling elevated and in such an exalted position in the centre of a cage. But for the rest of the world, this is going to be quite the spectacular presentation of the sport, quite the spectacle. And as a result, we've been able to attract the biggest names in the sport in the region, and some of those big names are making their way over here, and some of those names are fresh off very, very big performances at the recent Australian titles.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah, I think we've got nearly every winner of an Australian title for every division competing on this card. So there's some incredible talent that's coming across on this show. We've got the heavyweight title, which is the co-main event. So your main event is Ryan Blue Bowen versus Chant Shaw, and the co-main event for the heavyweight title, for the AWE title.
AWE heavyweight title.
That's right, absolutely.
Ooh, okay, so who are we looking forward to seeing in the cage for that one?
We've got this. I'm so looking forward to this match. I'm so excited. This is Mario Tambakis from New South Wales, and he is taking on Guntars Baikovs, who is from South Australia. But the interesting aspect of this match is that Guntars won the national title several times. Is originally from Latvia, had retired basically because he was so
lack
dominant.
of competition.
He was like, I'm just gonna let you guys sort of catch up, and still enormous. Hasn't been training for I think he had a few years, probably 5 years without competing, and then recently started dipping his toe back in the water, and the crazy thing about it is that, like, as an arm wrestler, you think you're doing not too bad.
You're a strong guy. You're
6'4".
You're about 110 kilos. Yeah. Can we say 110?
Sure, that's not accurate, but we could say
We'll say 110 kilos then. And so you're a big guy, and Guntars, big guy too.
Yeah.
Like, they're similar proportions, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah.
Big Latvian, big guy. You go on the table next to him. Somebody like yourself would feel like, I've got some kind of chance. I've been training hard. I've been training weights my whole life, and I've been arm wrestling for 2 or 3 years now. And you get on the table, and how did you feel? How do you feel when you get on the table with Guntars?
It's an immediate. As soon as I took hold of his hand, I was like, oh no.
It's not the same, is it? It's a different type of.
You can't even explain it. It's just like trying to grab a hold of a tree trunk. You just instantly know you've got no chance whatsoever.
Can't move the immovable.
No, that's right. His hand is enormous, and he's incredible. He's big, he's powerful, he's strong, he's quick and technical as well. And the good thing about him is he's a lovely guy. And
he's a lovely guy.
He
just loves ripping your arm off.
Yeah,
he's a lovely guy.
But he lets you sort of work and try to get, and he'll let you sort of get 3/4 of the way.
But he's letting you.
Yeah, he's letting you. He's allowing everything to happen. You are not in control of anything. And at any point in time he wants to, he could just roll through your wrist and roll through for the pin.
You may be one of the few people that's actually spent table time with both of these athletes in the last year or so, because there wouldn't have been too many athletes anywhere else in the world that would have had table time with Mario, which you did at the last Apex Sport Fest, and maybe more recently. I don't know if you had a chance to jump on Garage Wars with him or not, but
I didn't. But no, that's fine. Yeah.
So, but got to see him firsthand at that event. And of course, over recent months, Guntars been coming to the club, allowing us to practice on him, and he. What was really interesting, I heard a whisper that Guntars. So we held an event just recently, and Guntars was hopeful that Mario might well be here, and Mario wasn't able to make it, and Guntars was quite a little bit disappointed, because you could tell, like, he had the eye of the tiger back. He was ready, wasn't he?
Very, very
I was
disappointed.
somewhat surprised as to how disappointed Guntars was. So Guntars is obviously trying to feel his way back into the arm wrestling world after somewhat of a hiatus. And Mario, lovely guy. You spent some table time with him a year ago. How did he feel a year ago?
Yeah, he's incredibly strong. He's just so strong, and again another lovely guy. But he came through for our event that we had at the Apex. We had a tournament that we ran with the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club, and Mario won it with a smile on his face against every match. Before every match began, he would say to the opponent, just get whatever grip you want. Like, just you do your thing. And then when you're ready, just say go. Like, I don't care, And it didn't matter what. Somebody would start with everything. And they'd say go. And they just wouldn't move. And then he would just, like, nice and easy, just take him down to the pin pad against everybody. And I've got some amazing footage of the pulling after the tournament, and Mario's standing there, and people are just lining up, and he's literally drinking a beer in the other hand and talking to someone, and just pinning every single person. That's so good. It wasn't even watching. It was just like, yep, next, yep.
Okay.
So amazingly strong, and it seems to have increased since then as well.
That's the thing, it's now a year down the track, and Mario's comparatively young. I mean, he's only 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
I don't think he's yet 25, and made a massive impact on the sport over the last several years, and has really elevated himself to the top echelons of the sport in the Asia Pacific region, and has tested his mettle overseas in the last 12 months as well. So we are truly dealing with a world-class athlete in Mario, but what Mario hasn't had is perhaps the stiffest competition that he could possibly come across. And I think that's somewhat represented in Guntars, because Guntars, there's that, we know what he's been able to do on the international stage over the last decade. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that Guntars got any weaker in the last decade. And from what I understand as well, Guntars has some teenage sons that have been dragging him along to the gym.
Oh,
and so there was I guess a decidedly different physicality to Guntars, say 9 months ago, to more recent viewings of him, and it looks like he's been doing a little bit more than supervising when he's taking his lads to the gym. So it looks like he's been into it a little bit himself and getting himself into match ready shape. So we're not seeing Guntars retired and past his prime. I think we're seeing Guntars, maybe peak Guntars in physicality, but the ring rust, how much does feel and ring rust play on the mind of an athlete that performed at the highest level, who's now finding himself across the table from an athlete that's been competing consistently over the last year or two or three, where Guntars is not. So how does that play out? The adrenaline dump, how does he go in terms of feel and setup? And we know all of those things are critical to winning. And arm wrestling is won in moments; it's not won in hours.
That's right.
So how does Guntars go with that? That's the big question mark.
Yeah.
We know that Guntars is going to be strong. He's going to be physically capable. And maybe weigh in even more than what Mario does. Now, Mario's the current heavyweight Australian champion.
Yeah, so he won the under 100
kilos?
kilo national title,
Now, there's no weight limit as far as I'm aware for this one. So, Mario might float above that 100 kilos. It's very definitely obvious that Guntars is going to come in well over 100 kilos. Yeah. I'd say he walks around at about 120, 125, thereabouts. Just naturally walking around, a big guy. So we're going to see maybe the biggest Mario Tambakis that you've ever seen in Australian arm wrestling turn up at Apex, along with Guntars Baikovs, who really, he's performed at such a high level for such a long time and then has had such a hiatus. It's so exciting. We just don't know which way this one's going to go.
That's right.
And either way could set either athlete up for years to come. So this is going to decide the AWE heavyweight champion.
That's right.
Somebody will be walking out of that cage with a belt over his shoulder on the 25th of February. So very, very exciting matchup there.
This is going to be amazing. I'm so excited about that match. And I think it is the unknown factor about it because we haven't seen Guntars compete for a while. And it's like, well, he was so dominant before. And it's like, is he going to be able to be that dominant now against one of the rising stars of Australian arm wrestling who has done well on the international stage and has just looked better and better as he goes?
It's almost like Guntars is waiting for the best of the rest to catch up.
Yeah.
And now he sees a worthy opponent in Mario. And he's keen to test himself to see whether or not he's still got it. And and I know Mario's super keen. This is going to be a spectacular matchup because when you get to Mario's level, there's only but a handful of opponents that you can really look toward. And in the region, there might be 3 or 4 guys that you can kind of think, well, they're a worthy opponent, and Guntars is certainly one of those opponents who'll be across the table from him on the 25th of February. But you know what? The other heavyweights, super heavyweights that are also be finding their way into the cage, which I think we'll have to reinforce just for this following matchup.
Yeah.
But Adam Laura and Marcus Atirai, who will be in the cage. And these are 2 super heavyweight athletes. This is going to be exciting.
They put the heavy and heavyweight, these
guys.
guys.
and Adam just throws absolutely everything he's got at the table when he's there and at his opponent, and a fierce competitor, lovely guy again, but fierce competitor. And Marcus making his way over to South Australia, I believe, competing for the first time in South Australia, and first time on the AWE card, of course. This is our very first. So very, very excited to see how this super heavyweight matchup pans out, but too hard to tell. When you've got 2 competitors so evenly matched, and there's not a lot in between them in terms of physicality. Adam might have the height advantage and the reach advantage. Marcus, definitely solid guy, strong, lower center of gravity, huge forearm, massive power base. How do you see that one panning out?
Again, this is why I love this card.
How do you pick a winner?
I don't think that any of these matchups there is a clear winner, and that's what's amazing about it. It's like you're going in going, I don't know what's going to happen. This is going to be crazy.
So how does the arm bets world feel about the main event? So in terms of Chance versus Ryan, I believe that Chance's blocks are now sold out on arm bets.
Ryan is a heavy underdog.
He's a heavy underdog in that one. So he's got to do some more training videos. He's got to do something to pump up the hype. So all the smart money's on Chance on that one. So it's very definitely at this stage, the main event, it looks like Ryan's shaping up as the underdog. So
that's exactly how it was in the first match.
Got a lot of catch up, a lot of hard work to do, and to try and convince people and change people's minds in the lead up to the 25th. But if you're a betting man there between Adam and Marcus, too hard to tell.
God,
flip a coin.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely.
No advice for the arm bet warriors out there.
I would say put it at 50-50 because picking a winner in that is good luck.
Yeah. I reckon it really does come down to the day. You've got some contrasting styles there. Adam really does throw himself at it and has dedicated himself to the sport for a very long time. And of course, Marcus is just such a powerful individual, and it's hard to put money against somebody like that. When you see them in the room, you think, who could beat that? Who could beat him?
Yes.
Like, who could? And Adam just might be that person.
Yeah.
That's how freaky that matchup is.
Yeah.
So what I'm really excited about is that we've got this opportunity to work out who the number one junior in the country is. Ryan's been talking some shit over the last 6 or so months, hasn't he? Really, like he's been on the Jamie Barrett trail, and I guess proximity to excellence will do that to you. It will obscure your views as to who else might be out there in the world. And I guess in a similar way, we've had access to young Hamza Hodzic, and so this is really interesting because you've got two developing athletes, and whoever wins out of this, I think arm wrestling's the big winner, but both of the athletes have a huge future outside of this. So although we might be deciding who Australia's number one junior is, I don't think that's the be-all and end-all for either athlete on this occasion, because I think both have a huge future ahead of them. Both young athletes are seemingly growing by an inch a week and putting on 5 kilos every 2 weeks. Hamza has been introduced to the sport over the last 12 or so months, has been training quite heavily with the SA Titans, quickly gravitated to the top echelons of the club. So he's been training quite heavily with Botha, who's also featuring on our card, who's quite an accomplished South African arm wrestler and one of the top guys in the region currently, and also been working very closely with Taran Broad. And so as a result of his proximity to those top performing athletes and some of the, I guess, them sharing some of those arm wrestling secrets with Hamza, he's taken that all on board. And not only that, but physically, the kid's 6 inches taller than what he was 6 months ago. I mean, and I'll say 6 or 8 months ago, we would have an arm wrestler and I'd feel like I'd have some kind of a chance with him, and there is no chance whatsoever. Now, he's gone well beyond my level, and I liken it almost to having trained in my younger days, having done some powerlifting training, and my training partner at the time, he decided he'd try some vitamin S, and he went ahead and leaps and bounds. That's what it's like when you're dealing with some of these 16, 17-year-old athletes. Hamza, I felt like I was able to keep up, and then 3 weeks later, there was no chance in the world, but the thing is, he's going to keep going in that direction, and to have that specificity around strength, that specific arm wrestling strength, that pronator strength and that hand strength and that wrist strength at such a young age, and to have that arm wrestling architecture in place so early puts both of these athletes in such a good position as they start to expand and their influence within the sport and start to grow within the sport and find new opportunities in the sport. And it's going to be absolutely amazing to see where a Hamza Hodzic or a Jamie Barrett are in 10 years' time when they weigh something similar to an Adam Laura or a Guntars Baikovs. Yeah. We've got some really spectacular young talent in Australia, and it's going to be fascinating to see how Jamie, who's come off of his tour of America, competes against a relative unknown in Hamza Hodzic, who's had some regional success and has certainly proven himself to be one of the top young guns regionally.
Yep.
How's he going to go when he's put up against Ryan Bowen's favourite, Jamie Barrett?
That's right, absolutely. That is a big question mark again, and this is again one of the reasons that this whole card is filled with incredible matches, because it's like I don't know who's going to win this one. Jamie Barrett coming off, as you said, a successful tour of the US and beating a world champion, a former world champion, in one of the matches that he had there, and training ridiculously hard, fully dedicated to the sport. Ryan Bowen has mentioned that Jamie will nearly every night of the week be catching a train 2 hours somewhere to go and train with somebody, and then 2 hours back home before he gets up at 6 a.m. to go to work.
Dedication.
Absolutely, and again, both lovely guys. Hamza, has increased in not only size and physicality, but his knowledge, and when you explain something to him, he picks it up so quickly.
Table IQ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exceptional.
And then, being able to, he's using that advice that you gave him against you the next week, and you're like, that's right, I forgot that I told him that. But, that is an unknown, but it will be an incredible match, the junior title for the AWE, and, both guys. Wow, I would say this, from just what I've seen in terms of footage and knowledge of being on the table with Hamza, I'd say that Hamza has the power advantage, and the longer the match goes, I think the better for Hamza. I think Jamie is really explosive, very fast off the mark. So it's going to come down a lot to set up, and whether Hamza is able to implement a game plan that favours him to be able to get a stop, because Jamie is quick off the mark, and if Hamza is caught napping, he will be pinned before he realises the match has started. So it could be a 3 flash pin win, or it could be an extended war. So
So is Jamie 17 yet? Or still 16?
I think he's 16 at the moment.
Still 16, big 16-year-old, but still 16. Hamza's 17, just turned 17 late last year, I believe. So quite evenly matched in terms of age and in terms of weight and physicality. This is a very, very good matchup. So we are going to find out who is the number 1 junior in the Australasian region and who will walk away as the AWE junior champion. That's going to be a spectacular matchup. So really looking forward to that one.
Well, Hamza, just to finish on that, when he went to the Garage Wars, he had a match scheduled in Melbourne, which a few of the South Australian guys went over for, and Hamza ended up winning his match so dominantly and so comfortably that they were like, do you want to have another match? And then he won that one as well.
He won it just as comfortably.
Yeah. So it was, he'd flown all the way here, and he won like it was, a practice. And it was like, well, if you still got something, which you obviously did, we'll get you another opponent. And I think he probably could have had another one after that. So,
yeah. This is it's going to answer some big questions, and I think kind of sets up somewhat of a rivalry that might see both of these young athletes through their careers. When you get two very evenly matched figures arise at a very similar time, it's very difficult for commentators and speculators of the sport to not make those comparisons. And I think either way, as a result of this matchup and this just the perfect timing of this event, that both of these athletes, their futures are going to be intrinsically entwined for many, many years to come. So I think this will be the first of many Hamza Hodzic versus Jamie Barrett battles that you're going to see across the table, and hopefully the first of many on the AWE card, because both of these young athletes, I think, have a lot more to give beyond this particular event. But only one young man can walk away with the strap, and it will be the Hamza or Jamie on the 25th of February walking outside of that cage with their very well-learnt strap across their shoulder. So so that'll be very, very interesting. And we've got Fataali Mataio versus Lachlan Carpenter. That's a eagerly anticipated matchup. So very, very, very well matched up by the matchmaker there, Hollywood Matt Connolly. So well done on that one. So these are two big athletes once again. I mean, What made sense about this for you, Matt? I know this was one that you were very, very keen on, and so when the opportunity arose, what tickled your fancy about this particular matchup?
This is some of the top guys in the country right here. This is sort of the top 5 guys. Also, you've got Fataali Mataio, who's sitting basically ranked third in the country, coming back off of bicep surgery. He was out sort of around 2 years, and since coming back, he put an appearance in at the Over the Top tournament and did quite well there back in February of last year. And then since then has gone on to bigger and better things, looking incredibly dominant. He did fantastically in the Melbourne event in the Garage Wars, and it just seems to go from strength to strength. He competed in the Queensland state titles as well, and big, strong, powerful competitor. And he is taking on Lachlan Carpenter, who is the current heavyweight national champion, who just won that title about 2 months ago. So that will be an incredible event, because Lachlan has really stepped his game up, and it is literally the Australian champion taking on the third ranked in the country. So again, it's hard to pick a winner right there.
And you have to think the difference between number 1 and number 3 is simply the day. As you know, who turns up on the day ready, prepared, best rested, trained, well fed, best dressed, maybe. So it's hard to really call it in terms of statistically, but I admire Lachlan, because there are a lot of people that grab themselves a title that then put themselves on hiatus until it's time to defend that title. But Lachlan didn't hesitate. He was keen to test his mettle against somebody like Fataali, who is a serious contender who most people would maybe walk back from. But Lachlan, on the other hand, was keen to go head-to-head and test his mettle and see how it goes on the 25th.
He wanted to be on that card no matter what. He was like, sent me a message, he's like, get me anybody. I was like, here's Fataali.
Okay. So big match up there. I mean, and two big men, big athletes in the cage. At the same time, it's just going to be a spectacle.
Absolutely. We've got some massive guys competing on this card. There's a lot of heavyweights here.
There's a lot of heavyweights. But if we tone it back just a little, we've got Josh Barker.
We do.
Who has been dominant at 70 kilos, and has some of the freakiest forearm development I've seen on any human being in my life. So a lovely young man, a great athlete, and jumped at the opportunity to be on the card. And he's up against South Australia's number 1 ranked Taran Broad, who just cemented his place as number 1 on both left and right hand just this weekend, after perhaps falling away a little bit due to a lack of competition and for some months, but certainly returned to competition on just this weekend gone, and proved himself against another man on the card, as a matter of fact, Botha. And Taran dominated both left and right, and really stamped his authority on South Australian arm wrestling. Now, he's been in that position before, and now has that opportunity to take it to the next level, onto a national or regional stage, and up against Josh Barker. So Josh Barker still keen to take on Taran. Now, Taran obviously has a physical advantage, you would have to suggest, coming into this. How do you read that, and how do you think that'll play out to the advantage of Taran on the day?
Yeah, this is a classic speed versus power matchup, and Josh Barker is, I think,
is he a flash pin specialist?
Oh my God. He is one of the fastest pinning people I've ever seen in the sport worldwide. It is go instant pin. He's lightning fast. He is a press style, and if you are not prepared, you are pinned. Like, as soon as that ready go sound is finished from the referee's mouth, your hand has already been pinned. Incredibly fast. So his style takes him so far in tournaments and in super matches in the early rounds. He can really be dominant and get wins without having to use a lot of energy and without having to use a lot of endurance. So he can get that win. And then if it comes down to that somebody does actually get a stop on him, then he has technique. He's working very hard on the rest of his game, and he is doing phenomenally well at developing a full-rounded package as being an elite arm wrestler. So it will be a rematch against Taran. He's had several matches against him in the past, and most recently, I believe they faced off at the Garage Wars event. But I do believe that Josh did get a couple of, you might have at least one from memory that I definitely remember of a instant pin.
We'd have to watch the footage back, but
it's so fast.
So that was so fast. I don't know even know if Taran knew it. But if Taran can't catch that flash pin, then he is in some kind of trouble. But you get the feeling that if he can. Taran's got a very well-rounded game after that. So
absolutely, So Taran's strength is his strength. He's a very strong guy, and he is powerful, and he can drag people into his hook. He's a hook technique specialist, and he knows how to get into that position through his back pressure, his cupping, and once he gets there, it's game over. And he's pinned some of the top heavyweights in that position, so he's incredibly strong. We did see when he competed in the Titans Open tournament that over time that ability to get into that hook position was slightly compromised because of fatigue. But this being your first of three, I think that it's going to be tricky for Josh to really drag him into deep waters and exhaust him. And I don't think that Josh's style is to do that. He's not going to sit and get a position and hold that. He's going to be looking for those flash pin wins.
So if Josh can get those flashes in, then he's a very, very strong chance. If Taran can get a stoppage there, then you're going to see a little bit more of a war, it seems. So I think that's a matchup that'll kind of answer some questions that were raised as a result of Garage Wars and previous matchups, and might just settle the score somewhat and allow both athletes to walk off into the distance in their separate directions. So very, very happy to settle those scores at AWE. Laz Botha. So we got you'll see him on the card as Lasny. So Laz Botha. So Laz is a South African who has found his way to Australia and has been competing at a local level for the last year or two, and has found himself in the top 2 or 3 consistently in South Australia, and has been itching during the pandemic to test himself against the best that might be out there. And so he's competing on both left and right hand. So although you'll see him twice on the card, it is on different arms. So his matchup with Christian Boz. How did that come about, Matt?
Yeah, so Christian came down to do some training with us here at the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club, and he's incredibly strong on his left arm. He's ranked number 1 in Canberra, New South Wales, for the left arm, and I think that he got on the table with Lass, and they had a nice back and forth war throughout their practice session. And then for the opportunity to actually have a proper match, I think that Lass actually reached out to Christian and said, "Hey, I want to have a match with you on left." And then came to me and said, "Hey, we've got a match that we want to put on." And it's like, guess what? I've got a card that we can make that happen.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, but Lass being incredibly explosive. He is
very entertaining to watch.
Oh, yeah. He's called the Berserker for a reason.
We're going to have to bolt down the table for Lass.
Absolutely, yeah. So he rocks back and forth, explodes into different positions. He is a variety of technique. He's sort of mastered every position that you could think of: the press, the hook, the top roll. Your basic fundamentals.
He's an arm wrestling connoisseur first, isn't he? And an athlete second. He seems to have a deep love and affection for the intricacies and techniques of the sport.
That's right, absolutely. And he's very well rounded and very willing to compete as often as he can. So he's always looking at who can I compete against. I want to match with them. how do I climb the ladder? Who's ranked higher? How long have they been playing? I want to go against this guy. You know, he had the most super matches out of anyone in our club last year, and he's already had what are we in 10 days into the year? He's already had 2 super matches,
and he might well have set a world record for most amount of matches in an hour at the Last Man Standing event back in October, I believe. I think 170 matches in an hour or something like that.
Something insane.
Yeah. So against 5 opponents, and he felt strong all day. I think his shirt might have even come off.
It did.
Halfway through the
event. Half the shirts ended up on the floor, and then Goku put his shirt back on. I don't know. It's weird.
And then we've got so Laz again against Tom Demkowski, who comes off a big performance at the national titles. So Tom's obviously looking forward to this on right hand on this occasion. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So under the 90 kilos national champion for Tom Demkowski, he is taking on Laz Berserker Botha, and they have sort of similar styles in terms of they're both very well rounded. They know the table in every aspect. It's not that they are strictly one specialized,
not one dimensional.
That's right. So they can go anywhere, do any technique, and that's what makes that matchup really interesting because you don't know which way they're going to set themselves up. But Lass is more of a low-handed top roller as his bread and butter, but he's willing to go in any position and can do it from. So he might set up in a low-hand top roll, and then halfway through the match, he's switching to a hook, he's switching to a press. He's rolling back and forth, and that's where you get that explosion of he's moving into crazy positions and screaming and yelling and jumping on the table.
It almost his physical movements are distracting enough, and then he's making noises on top of that, and it's quite disillusioning for whoever might be unfortunate enough to be on the other side of the table from him. So we do have, I believe, the best matchups that you're likely to find on a card in Australia, certainly this half of 2023, and especially when you look towards when eyes goes to the top of the card here. So obviously there'll be a lot of anticipation around Ryan and Chance's matchup, and probably more internet speculation and the like. But as you filter through that card, there is some real depth and some high quality matchups that any arm wrestling fan is going to be super keen to see. So I believe that most of these matchups you can see for free in the lead up to the pay-per-view event, which will be the top card, half of the card. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think the way we're going to set it up is so the first 3 matches, which would be Lass versus Christian Boz and Lass versus Tom Demkowski and Josh Barker versus Taran Broad. That will be streamed on Ryan's channel for free.
So you can just be watching that and don't have to pay a cent.
That's right. And then it will lead into the pay-per-view event, which would be 5 matches, finishing and culminating with Ryan versus Chance as the headlining match. So you will get 3 for absolutely free, and then if you pay the $10 for the pay-per-view fee, you will get the other 5 matches that will take place, including the headlining act.
So that's Lachlan, Fataali, Hamza versus Jamie, Marcus and Adam, and Guntars versus Mataio, and of course the main event there being with Ryan versus Chance. So
it's a crazy card. I'm excited to see this so much myself. Like the depth of talent that's on this card, and these matches are incredible. And the fun thing about it is that having the heavyweight title being contested between Mataio and Guntars leads into, well, these are the matches that are on the card in the heavyweight division. Well, they will determine who's going to be next for.
So where does that leave the winner of Adam Laura versus Marcus Atirai, for instance?
Exactly.
Does that lead them naturally into a matchup with the winner of Guntars Baikovs versus Mario Tambakis?
It could. Yeah. Well, that's what's fun about it is the fact that we've got 2 other enormous heavyweight matches on that card. Determining as to what happens throughout those matches should determine who's next for the title. So, it could potentially be Adam Laura, Marcus Atirai. It could be Fataali, Mataio. Could be Lachlan Carpenter, and they might be going for the title at the next event.
Indeed, yeah. There's so much talent there. It's hard to know exactly where that's going to fall. But what we do know is that there will be 2 athletes walking out there with the title, and it will be the AWE heavyweight Championship, as well as the AWE Junior Championship. That'll decide Australia's very, very best junior. And, of course, at the top of the card, Ryan Blue Bowen.
The big event.
Versus Chance Shaw. Ryan, the severe underdog at this stage, bulking up, doing all that he can to put on as much muscle as possible to be as formidable as he can be across the table from Chance Shaw, who is much like our juniors, growing by the day, just getting bigger and bigger and stronger. So Chance definitely feels like this is his to lose, and Ryan doing everything he can to put himself into some position where he might be able to win. So this is going to be a massive event and something we're very, very proud to bring to the world. And like I say, this will be the first of many AWEs, I would suggest, Hollywood Matt Connolly.
Absolutely.
Spectacular job in putting the card together as matchmaker for this event, Hollywood. So we're very, very well done. I mean, you couldn't... This is really something that'll get arm wrestling fans salivating. And anybody who wants to see wars, they know where to come, because on the 25th of February, it's going to be on the pay-per-view, of course. If you do happen to be in Australia and do want to make your way over to Adelaide at the Nord Oval, the iconic Nord Oval, or the Cooper's Arena, I think the sponsor's name might be now. But if you look on Google Maps, it's Nord Oval. The historical Nord Oval, which is home to the South Australian premiers at the moment, the Nord Redlegs. So they won the most recent SAMFL premiership in the AFL here in South Australia, and it is on their home ground that this event will be hosted, along with a plethora. I'm going to say a plethora of combat sports, strength sports, and explosive sports events. We've got
so much happening.
Medieval battles. We've got the guys there with the swords. We've got the sword fighting. We've got
wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some Sanshi going on there.
Strongman.
MMA at the end of the day. Of course, a full MMA card. I mean, it's not like anything's held back. You go to this event and it's a smorgasbord of combat sports, and then right at the end you've got yourself an elite level MMA event waiting for you there, where you can cozy up there in the grandstands and watch yours truly in the middle of the cage, announcing some of the biggest fighters that this country has got to offer. So, and we will, I believe, see two DFC belts contended on the 25th of February as part of the Apex Sport Fest and DFC, so Diamondback Fighting Championship. So if you are here in South Australia or in Australia and looking to make your way over, don't hesitate to do so. But before you do, make sure that you get your flights in nice and early and get your tickets at diamondbackfc.com. Don't wait for our competitions. We will be giving away some tickets between now and then, but don't wait for then. Grab your tickets now. Make sure you do. And if you happen to win some tickets, well, you've got something to give away to your friends.
That's right.
So do that now. But importantly, this AWE card. Yeah. I mean, if you're coming over just for that, don't blame you. It's going to be awesome. Again, it would be held in the cage, in a ISCA-approved cage. And some of the biggest athletes physically, but also in terms of their accomplishments that the Australasian region has to offer, will be in the cage and fighting it out, literally, for at least a couple of titles at Apex Sport Fest. So massive card, a great event, and really looking forward to it. Hollywood Matt Connolly. Final predictions for the main event, Bowen versus Shaw. Hollywood Matt Connolly, how do you see it?
Well, I think the fans are going to be the big winner, but
very diplomatic.
Well, absolutely. Well, as stated, Chance Shaw is the heavy favourite.
He's the betting favourite at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is based on recent performances. He's beaten quite a number of notable people in the arm wrestling world, and recently beat somebody who had beat Ryan. So that is where we're at. But styles make matches, and Ryan loves being the underdog and people to doubt him. So he's putting in the time and the effort, and he does hold a victory over Chance in their first matches. So we'll see if he can repeat the performance here at AWE.
It's so interesting because Ryan's going to be almost 20 or 25 kilos heavier than the last time he competed when he steps into the DFC cage at Apex Sport Fest for the AWE event. And so what does, we all know a diminished 80 kilo Ryan Bowen can't beat Coach Ray at his best,
right.
But we know that now. But what do we make of Ryan Bowen 25 kilos heavier, and having been on a weight training regime from one of the elite trainers of the world?
Yeah.
Let's see how that pans out for Ryan. A lot of questions to be answered at Apex Sport Fest, and AWE is going to be that space where people can find out the answers. So all they need to do, of course, is head over to Ryan Blue Bowen's channel. Make sure that they're ready to go on the pay-per-view. We'd hate for you to miss out on this event. You'll be on the mic, I believe. You'll be on the mic or in the cage, officiating. You'll be doing whatever.
I'll be doing something. You'll see me there in some aspect.
Exactly.
I'll be doing everything.
So, and depending if an athlete drops out, you might even step in. Who knows?
I might have to.
You might be Australia's best junior. Who knows? That could be. That might be your opportunity. Who knows?
Beaten by Australia's best junior.
So AWE, thank you for joining the podcast, of course, and of course, come along to the event. If you're going to be in Australia, be here in person. We can guarantee cage side seats for all of AWE podcast listeners. All you need to do is comment below, and if you're going to be here, comment below in any of our posts between now and the 25th, and we'll make sure that you're cage side. If you've got your tickets to the event, then we will make sure that you are cage side for this massive, momentous card here at the AWE. So Hollywood Matt Connolly, thank you for the card. Thank you for bringing much joy to the lives of arm wrestling fans all across the world, and we'll look forward to seeing all of our peeps out there in person on the 25th of February. You'll be there, I'll be there. Of course, Ryan and Chance, they're going to be there. All of the athletes will be there and more. So there'll be plenty of after pool as well. So if you are an arm wrestling fan and you're thinking, do I go? I don't know. Well, you know what? If you do come along, there'll be after pool all afternoon. Yeah. There will be beers to be had. There'll be fun, and we'll certainly look after you and look forward to seeing you here in Adelaide for the AWE 1.
That's right. First event, inaugural event.
The very first inaugural event.
First of the several inaugural events.
So thanks so much for joining us on the podcast again, and we look forward to bringing you a whole lot more AWE action next time. I'm Dave Stockbridge. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly. There's some double biceps, and we'll be bringing you more arm wrestling action next time.
All right.